Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Bill O'Brien out as the offensive coordinator at Alabama, takes the job in New England. And again, this kind of seems more of a Nick Saban coming to Bill and saying, go for some other opportunities because the offense you were running ain't it. Now, for Bama fans, I don't think this is too bad. There are a lot of very good offensive coordinator candidates that are available. And you know Nick Saban and that coordinator spot at Alabama is one of the more attractive spots in the whole entire country. Very excited to see where Alabama goes before we get into it. I just want to say thank you to you guys. Again, the support you guys have shown truly means a lot. We love talking football, but we love talking football with you guys in the comment section as well. These videos are fun, but meeting new fans, reaching out with you guys, that's truly why we do it. We do appreciate it. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Drop your offensive coordinator candidate hire in the comment section. Dill, I'm going to kick this one off to you. Let's for one talk about Bill O'Brien leaving and how we feel about that, and then we'll get to potential candidates.
I mean, I kind of echo what you say. I can't imagine this was like a low-key firing that Nick Saban carried out, because when you look at how good, when you have a generational quarterback like Bryce Young, you need to be way, way better than what they were. And I get people say the wideout play wasn't great, the offensive line wasn't what it usually was. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're the coach, you have a weapon in Bryce Young, and for you to put that out there, like what they did against Texas and some of those other games where they just didn't look like they could put a drive together, that's just unacceptable. So I'm kind of with this. And I frankly think you probably say the same thing about the D coordinator too. I think both these guys, I think it was time to move on, because
there's a reason Pete Golden went from Alabama to Ole Miss. I mean, that he took a lateral job and downgraded the program he went to. Now, yeah, lateral in quotation marks there. That's for sure. You mentioned the lack of wide receiver play, the poor offensive line development, like that. I think you can put a lot of that on Bill O'Brien. And when you look back at how that offense was operated, the only reason they were having anyone of success was Bryce Young being the best football player on the field, playing backyard football and making plays, because what Bill O'Brien was scheming up just was not working. And again, Bryce Young, Jahmyr Gibbs, you had multiple high recruits at the wide receiver position. And I get it. Like some of those guys weren't Jamison Williams. Those guys weren't John Mechie. But they're also not scrubs. And they were.
When you're talking Bama, there's no excuse for that lack of product
development. I think it's a development thing. And you look at why was the wide receiver play so bad. You can put a lot of that on Bill O'Brien and the development that he has with his wide receivers and with his offensive line. And I know you have offensive line coaches. I know you have wide receiver coaches. But the overall development of your offensive players falls on the offensive coordinator. And Bill O'Brien, quite frankly, just was not getting the job done.
Yeah, 100%. So again, I think when you look at this move, I certainly don't think it hurts Alabama. It hasn't hurt the recruiting. That's been very obvious.
Yeah,
I'm guessing Nick Saban, like any other coach, tells recruits when they're kind of shopping their coaches around or when their coaches might leave. Because again, if you're not honest about that, then you get a mass exodus kind of situation. And nobody's left Alabama since either of the coordinators left. So I get the sense this wasn't wildly shocking to anyone, certainly not recruits. And again, with what they did last year, both of them had to go. You just can't play. You can't be that bad when you're the preseason number one by far.
And that was, I mean, we all had Alabama winning the national championship.
I thought they'd be like the best team in the history of football. You got two defensive ends who are going to be top 5 picks in their own class. You had a quarterback who's going number 1 overall. Like,
you had arguably the 2 best players in the country, in Bryce Young and Will Anderson, and they weren't able to get it done. What's impressive is the recruiting class. I mean, they got 8 guys in the top 50, and they don't have a coordinator on either side of the ball, which is, I mean, a testament to how great of a job Nick Saban is doing with that program. What I want to talk about a little bit more is, okay, you have this vacancy. This is a historic spot for coaches who are very talented coaches to come to Alabama, take a year, and it's like the Nick Saban wash away. Like, you go coach for Nick Saban, you win a national championship, and then you're forgiven for all your past and you get hired as a head coach somewhere else. That's kind of how the story has gone. This is the most attractive opening at a coordinator spot in the whole entire country. And quite frankly, it's probably more attractive than a lot of NFL jobs as well. And so
I think by a mile. You talk about who's done a better job making new coaches. I mean, Kirby Smart, Pruitt, God, I mean,
coaching
goes
tree is
right down the
unmatched.
line. And
So, Dale, I'm going to kick it to you here. You're looking at potential offensive coordinator candidates. I'm going to start with mine. I think Joe Brady would be a phenomenal one, like kind of the whiz kid behind Joe Burrow and that LSU championship team, developing Joe Burrow, developing Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all that talent that you see succeeding at the NFL level. Like a lot of that was credited to Joe Brady. Then he goes to Matt Rule in Carolina. He struggles there, goes to Buffalo, has a solid year with the Bills. This seems to be a great spot where he comes back down to the college level where he made his money at LSU, offensive coordinator for the best coach in college football history. And then 2 years, you maybe put together a national title. You're looking at one of the hottest commodities for a college football head coach in the country.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Again, like he's already got the name recognition, and if he puts together a couple years at Bama, I mean, he the next big SEC job that opens up is his if he wants it at the end of the day. And with the way these college coaches are getting paid at the Tennessees, at the Georgias, like it's a good opportunity for him because right now it doesn't look like he's imminently going to get a shot at an NFL coaching job or a head coaching job, I should say. I mean, he's
too young, needs to develop more, and there's no better coach to develop as a head coach than Nick Saban. Del, what is it like one guy that jumps out for you here?
I mean, Dan Mullen feels like a guy
Hell
who should take this job if he can get it. And I don't know if Saban would offer it to him necessarily, but if he would, I mean, this would be a great fit. Dan Mullen to do exactly what Sarkisian did. Like, yes, Dan Mullen flamed out at Florida in a pretty epic fashion, but again, you go to the school of Nick Saban, like last chance you for coaches almost. you that's how you go get your next job, like what Lane Kiffin did and what Sark did. And both now look like they're kind of having some success at their new schools. So you kind of got that pipeline already going. And Dan Mullen's exactly like those two. He's like a carbon copy.
And Dan Mullen, if you watch him on ESPN, he's itching to get back on the football field. And he might say he's not, but for one, he ain't that great on TV. He's much better with the headset on his head. That would make a lot of sense. And there's not many other coaches across the country who've had his success. Like he was a very, very good head coach, flamed out at Florida, like you mentioned, and just needs a rehab. Like go to Alabama, get right again, and then you'll be in the SEC conversation for the next vacant.
And also, he's a very good fit with Jalen Milroe, if that's ultimately what
Alabama
goes with, because
very true.
Nobody's done a better job with mobile quarterbacks in college football than Mullen. I mean, Tebow, Dak, like obviously he made those two. He was instrumental in how those two successes and obviously could very well fit the Milroe mold, I think.
Okay, I got another one. I got two more. I got Jeff Levy from Oklahoma, where this one would be a weird one, but I also have heard some rumblings of it potentially happening. And I think Jeff Levy's one of the more exciting offensive-minded coaches in the whole entire country. And I get Oklahoma struggled last year, but I don't think that offense, like with that offense with Dylan Gabriel, was not really struggling. Like they were moving the football. A lot of their problems were on the defense side of the ball. And again, a Josh Heupel disciple. That would make a lot of sense. And the other guy who is looking for a job, I believe he's enjoying himself in some Southeast Asia country.
He's in Thailand. He's chilling.
Thailand.
I get why you'd say Cliff Kingsbury, but there's no way he's going to go take an offensive coordinator job in college football under Nick Saban.
Who's hiring him?
I think he'd go get any NFL OC job he wants right now. And I don't necessarily agree with it. I'm not sure he's like as good of a coach as people think he is.
Me neither.
But he's got too much money, and I don't know that he loves the grind like that.
No.
To go back and I mean to work under Nick Saban, you got to work. Like you got to recruit. He's going to work, and he sets the tone. So like, I don't know. I just can't imagine he goes back. It's just such a drastic shock to his system than what he's I think been used to, which is. I'm not sure he's doing a whole lot at Arizona, frankly, besides chilling by the pool because of not good effort out of him there.
You make a really good point. I wonder how many NFL coaches are looking at the new college football landscape with NIL and like the transfer portal and recruiting. Like, there is no bigger grind than coaching college football right now. Like, you play your season, and then you have December, and then you play a bowl game. But in December, you're on the road recruiting. Right after the season in January, February, you're on the road recruiting, and then spring ball happens. Like, there is no off season in the college football landscape. And a guy like Cliff Kingsbury, who got the taste of what being an NFL coach is, he's not necessarily looking for any money. Like, I wonder if he ever wants to go back and back to that grindstone. You're looking for a coach who wants to put in that work, because if you're an offense coordinator at Alabama, you're on the road most of the weeks when you're not coaching football, recruiting prospects. And I wonder how attractive of a job it is for guys who were NFL coaches to go back to the college landscape and want to take that job. If I had to put some betting odds on this, who's your favorite to get this job?
I mean, it feels like Dan Mullen's going to
He
get
makes
this
the
job.
most
I don't have any, obviously, no real insight, but I feel like he could. You know who else I feel like sneaky could is Jeff Scott at Clemson, because that's a guy he's got at kind of of what Nick Saban's made famous, that analyst position for a coach who is not an analyst. And I gotta think he wants another crack at a head job, and
no better way.
I mean, he also can coach, no doubt about that. So I think that could be mutually beneficial to both. But at the end of the day, I do feel like it's going to be Mullen. So
I think it's Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady makes a ton of sense. I think he's a college guy, and again, he follows Matt, or doesn't follow, but goes to Matt Rule's program as the OC. Obviously, not a lot of success. Was solid in Buffalo. It's not like he did anything special with Josh Allen, but where you look at where he had the most success, and he was like the brainchild behind that LSU offense, the brainchild behind Joe Burrow's development. I think he's one of the best offensive coordinator candidates for any college football team. And like, if you're looking at Alabama, like, they're going to be very, very attractive destination. And it makes a total amount of sense. Like, he struggled at Carolina, didn't necessarily let it up on the Bills. He comes to Alabama, does some good things with that offense. And again, I think he's like the next young up and coming head coach, whether it's at the NFL level, whether it's at the college level. Very interesting story to follow, and we'll talk about it when it becomes official. And no doubt this will be a hurry, because again, you don't want to go too long without a coordinator in the life of college football, because
now you're getting into spring ball. I mean, you can't wait that much longer. He's been coming in mid-season almost.
It's going to be an exciting one. And again, I for Bama fans, like, I don't think this is a bad thing. Like, you needed a new guy. This Bill O'Brien offense was not working. Again, wanted to keep it short, but did want to jump on and give you guys our takes. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. We appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later. Peace.